everyone. We appreciate everyone taking time out of their day and enjoying their lunch over our webinar. I'm Jim Haskins. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Checkpoint Technologies. And again, the webinar is Application Security Vulnerabilities, Putting Everyone at Risk. If I can get the slide deck to advance. Okay. Just some general housekeeping notes. We would ask that you please submit any questions that you may have during the presentation in the questions section to the right side in the control panel. We will work some of those questions in during our conversations today, but all those questions will be answered completely and sent to everyone in attendance after the event is over. We'll also include the presentation deck as well as a white paper, Security Management and Operations report by ESG. Also, don't forget the drawing for the Kindle Fire HD at the end for all those still able to stay on to the very end. And just as a note, we have had some audio challenges. If for some reason you lose your audio on your end, we will recognize that here and fix it very quickly. But I would ask for you to be a little patient. I don't think that it will happen, but if it does, just be aware we are aware of it and we'll get it fixed immediately. So a little bit about who Checkpoint Technologies is. We are a Florida corporation headquartered in Tampa, Florida. Our team is comprised of consultants, solutions architects, and solutions engineers that are highly capable and focused on helping you as a client solve your business problems. We have historically focused on HP Software, IT Performance Suite, and HP Enterprise Security Solutions. I like to call those solutions the command and control applications that help you as IT owners perform better and accomplish your goals. We specialize in quality assurance, application monitoring and software testing to include functional and performance testing, as well as application security and the development side of the house. We provide resources to you as a client potentially around staff augmentation, training, consulting, and implementation services, as well as HP software licensing and support. We've worked hard to make sure that we are qualified to do what we do. We're an HP software specialist partner, which basically means that we've spent a lot of time, energy, and effort reaching the premier partner status within the HP world. We're an HP support partner, and that basically allows us to provide you first call support around core products to allow you to get hopefully more expeditious resolution around any challenges you might face. We're also an HP training partner and a legacy Mercury partner for those of you that remember Mercury. These are just some of the customers that we have done business with for quite some time now, just so you know that we do have relationships that work, and we would love to add you to this list. I'm really excited today about our guest speaker. Hollis Howell is the Global Technical Director for HP Fortify, HP Enterprise Security Solutions, and brings much expertise and knowledge to this discussion. You can see there that he's been involved in and responsible for not just strategy but practical applications of the solutions, which is really critical in making a solution work correctly for you. So we're really glad to have Hollis here. And without further wasted time, I'll introduce Hollis. Hollis?
Hey, Jim. Hey, thanks. Thanks, everybody, for joining this morning or this afternoon. And we're going to spend about 45 minutes today and just kind of raise the awareness of software security assurance, and hopefully you have will have a better understanding once we're done here. And if there are additional questions, by all means, insert those into the actual panel, and we will answer those questions at the end. So pretty much for today, we're going to touch on these different agenda items in no particular order or fashion, but hopefully we're able to cover all of these. And again, to raise your awareness and understand some of the challenges around security and some ways of protecting. But one thing for sure is to do business, there are consistent challenges that we've seen over time. But the actual threat itself has changed quite dramatically. And HP has pretty much made a very large investment to help in that response. HP, as you know, is historically known to be a hardware company or a printer company. Well, HP is the third largest software company in the world, and in fact, they're wanting to be the #1 software security company in the world. And just for your own edification, I put up the group that I'm a part of, the Enterprise Security Services Group, and we have this one team, one vision, as we know that security should be a defense in-depth perspective. But some of the names you see may resonate, may not. I'll touch on a few. DV Labs, or Digital Vaccine Labs. These are the threat scientists behind the technology, being able to analyze the threat and being able to also provide us with signatures and other definitions to make our technology current and relevant. Tipping Point is an adaptive security agent that sits on a choke point in your network and analyzes the traffic and allows the good traffic through and filters the bad traffic out. ArcSight is security awareness, taking data and making information. Today we're going to focus on the primary core of the application security perspective. It's Fortify and Spy Dynamics now, and of course it's HP Fortify. And we're going to kind of move through some of the slides here. And this slide is fairly busy. There's a lot of pictures to kind of speak to, but the subject reigns true. Software runs the world. Software today is the infrastructure from a global perspective. Without software, where will we be? The smartphone that we have wouldn't be so smart without some form of software. I probably couldn't have made it into the office this morning without software. So whether it's telecommunications, air defense, satellite, you name it, software is a very, very integral part in our lives today, and is going to be that way for a while. And the point that I really, really want to illustrate is while we offer a lot of services and solutions for you, today we're going to focus on security, and Fortify is a security, software security company. So what's the problems that we face today? Regardless to where you get your applications from, whether it be off-the-shelf, shrink-wrapped, third-party, from the United States, from India, or Russia, where is that code coming from? And once that code is acquired, is there some success criteria or acceptance criteria that you have? Most times it isn't, and this code is introduced into the environment, and it's more or less given the task of being the front end to your customer information. And inevitably, when that occurs, the breach ensues, and from that's where the money to do business increases exponentially. So the goal is of course, understanding where the software is coming from, how it's handled, and then to be able to better measure. And of course, knowing that the threat is very, very large, a lot of organizations realize that you have to do something with respect to security. It's just, what is the overall goal to become successful in security? Is it that pen test? If I come and dive your dumpster or social engineer your front desk and I get in, it's game over. The point of the matter is these issues that we're dealing with are deeply embedded in these applications. And there are applications with vulnerabilities that are one day are theoretical, the next day they're actual. So oftentimes I'm sure you've heard of the term zero-day vulnerability or zero-day attack. This is where they come from. They are essentially in the code, not activated until a new exploit or something becomes available, before there's another integration point, and then it becomes a real live issue. So how can we help to prevent this big iceberg of an effect within your environment? What we've seen, and NIST has also stated that if you fix things earlier, you have a 30 times savings, again, implementing security within the requirements phase or within the coding phase. And that iceberg that you saw is represented by this 85% of issues that we've seen. The code, as it's being developed, provides the largest entry point of the vulnerability threat. And as it goes over time, we will see as this code is going to pre-deployment phase, there may be a few additional vulnerabilities or defects introduced based on the platform that it's going to be hosted upon. But juxtaposed, when you look at the number or the percentage of defects found, there's virtually no testing done in development. Whereas, of course, I'm sure you've contended with applications, programs slipping. Oftentimes, we wait right till the last minute before we go live to do the heavy testing. Again, we want to do it earlier and we want to do it often. And the thing that's probably most near and dear to our hearts is the cost to do business. If we find a single vulnerability in development, it's going to cost relatively $25 per issue, whereas oftentimes what I've seen in my travels is finding issues in production. The outpour is, in fact, greater than $25. It's about $16,000 to find an issue in production and to fix it, because you have to take it out of commission, back into dev to fix the issue, back into testing to verify it, then through security. And if the issue still exists, you take it right back through that cycle. Again, if we can begin to emphasize the training and the testing, the education right where the vulnerabilities are introduced in the code, we will have a much larger savings for our organization and minimize the risk much more successfully. So again, with a much tighter loop on your SDLC, regardless to where the code is coming from, whether it's off the shelf, whether it's shrink wrapped, whether it's coming from any other region, it's going to have to pass through some security gate, some measure of acceptance criteria that's going to validate and verify that the code that you receive is in fact clean, that there are no inherent vulnerabilities, that you're not going to put your 30 years of reputation on the line, that you're not going to allow access to your customers or your members' healthcare records or your credit card information. And then, of course, to continue on an aggressive measure to monitor and to continue to protect. And then you will clearly see the refinement of your SDLC policy. So I put this up here for brevity's sake, and this site is live, www.datalossdb.org, and of course I obfuscated the organizations to protect the innocent, say. But again, it's a live site, and the Ponemon Institute is P-O-N-E-M-O-N. The Ponemon Institute estimates to replace a single record, it's about $200 US. So take that first incident up top, it's 150 million records. To determine the actual ramification of this particular issue, multiply that times $200. Well, there are a few others on here that are very near and dear to my heart, but again, it's in the millions of dollars to recover from these incidents, and that's not the thing that I really want to highlight. What I really want to highlight are the things that I've put in yellow. There's a lot of security, there's a lot of security partners, a lot of security programs, a lot of solutions. There's IDS, IPS, scanners, encryption. The fact of the matter is this site indicates, it shows a record of the largest incidents since the inception of the Internet. The largest incidents hadn't happened that long ago. So the point of the matter is things aren't getting much better. So Gardner even states that approximately 75% of all attacks are happening at the application layer. And this is in clear disparity to the funds that are being allocated to support that effort. There hasn't been a single application that I personally scanned that I didn't find a mission-critical vulnerability. SQL injection and cross-site scripting are very, very prevalent, and they are very, very nasty. And they're a single-click attack. There's nothing else that you need to do other than execute that one single click, and damage is done. So again, we can all agree that doing business on the Internet is risky business. And the stats prove all the percentages of the vulnerabilities that we see. And let's face it, the vulnerabilities that we see are the vulnerabilities that we build in, right? We're starting with ASCII characters into a particular runtime application. These vulnerabilities are real. And so what we want to do is empower the developer to be a part of the solution. Telling the developer that their application sucks is just like telling the mother that their baby's ugly. It's a very delicate conversation, but the fact of the matter is true. So we want to arm them to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Security isn't just security department's responsibility. It's everybody in the organization's responsibility. And as the developer is within their environment developing the code, we want them to feel good in knowing that once they take that code and they promote it into testing or into the build server environment at the end of a sprint, that it is as secure as possible. So we want to, again, enable them to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And in fact, what we've seen is a shift in the culture when we arm the development team with the solution. So what is that solution? So this slide is I guess a finale of a whiteboard that I often do for my customers. And I kind of step you through it. So at the very top right corner, talk about the digital assets, the intellectual capital, the database of customer information that you have is oftentimes brought online for ease of use. And in the very center of this slide, you'll see the lock on top of that monitor looking. That's the application, or this, oftentimes I call it the Swiss cheese of the solution here. And in the far left bottom, where the firewalls and you see the little images there of the threats, these are the hackers. So it's easy to secure your environment. You just unplug from the wall. But in fact, that's just not the case, because then you are out of the global market for e-commerce. Organizations will implement a firewall, which is very common, and you can plug up all 65,535 ports and leave that single pinhole, port 80 or port 443 for SSL open. The hackers know that that port is the vector into the application. And so that $280 billion number is the number that is expected for consumers and businesses to spend in order to protect their assets. The hackers view it as a ransom. So what we realize is, dev is just not engaged. Development's sole purpose is to build functionality, to build fluidity in the application, to give the end user the best user experience when they come to your site. Education is a very big, issue in organizations. I know of Carnegie Mellon, who has a bachelor's degree in security. I think Waterloo up in Canada may have a degree. A few others have certification courses, but let's face it, there's a deficit in education around application security. Or wherever you've acquired your code. Did you use an offshore shop, or you bought it off the shelf? And then, as far as having a security gate, was there anything in place? Security not being defined, meaning you may have a security policy and you may not. You may only have a firewall and maybe antivirus, and not anything, to go with the OSI, or testing not being adequate. Maybe you're just doing functional testing. Maybe you're just doing performance testing. What we want to position is the software security assurance. It's just the argument of the door versus the doorknob. What's the purpose of the application in retrospect to the inherent damage or exposure of misuse and compromise? Let's have a dialogue and help to build in the processes that will help you to become that much more successful in your business endeavor, whether it's through SDLC or Agile or Spiral, what have you, but whatever makes sense for your business model. Education, where we have computer-based training, we have e-learning, where to educate your developers and your security practitioners on today's threats. The automation of making this seamless within your current environment, being able to have everything within the security arsenal work together to provide a much clearer view of your security posture, and then the governance of managing the overall program. Ultimately, the goal at the end of the day is to minimize the risk, minimize the cost to do business via dev, but to raise the revenue. And there are several different solutions that you see that flank the picture here, whether it be services or software. But we have offerings whether on-premise or in the cloud. If it's something that you may not have the full-time employee to manage this, maybe you don't have the time to implement or the space to house the servers, we have offerings, Fortify on Demand, to do this in the cloud, where it's a virtual zero-footprint solution to help you in this same endeavor, and that's for static and dynamic analysis. So again, talking about the necessary elements to a successful program. It's the education, it's measuring the progress or lack thereof, and it's adhering to the compliance pressures that you may have from within your organization or from external. Or the technology itself. So when we talk about software security assurance, we're talking about the three critical paradigms to doing business. That's people, process, and technology. The technology piece is that's going to basically where the rubber meets the road, of allowing you, say, from a static analysis perspective, looking at raw code, or from the inside out, being able to do a syntactical analysis of the code to determine if this semicolon is in the right place or this nested statement is written correctly, what's the efficiency of this particular code, or dynamically, once you've taken that code and you've compiled it and it's in a runtime servicing your customers, what else is it serving your customers? How is it effective in what it's doing? And then, of course, the human element of being able to take the human eyes and view the information contextually to see what things may exist beyond the technology, because we know technology doesn't necessarily fix technology. You need that human element. And again, this is something that is via a software implementation or a cloud solution. So taking a step deeper into the technology, so the way Fortify works is regardless to the actual language that you use in your organization, whether it's C++, Java, COBOL, Ruby on Rails, we're able to take that code and normalize it, more or less create this machine language that Fortify can interpret. And then from there, we'll go through and do a deep analysis of this data. And what we're doing is not looking at it, per language or per component. We're looking at it, all inclusively of the application, because as you analyze your code, you may analyze only the JSP pages or only the Java. There may not be anything associated with respect to security concerns in that, but we want to look at the application as it's in a servicing capacity. Because with all these different parts, there may be a vulnerability or an issue that may have cascaded its way through the different languages. So we want to be that much effective in what we're doing. And again, there are over 21 different languages that we support. And so the static analysis is implemented either within the developer's environment, whether it's Eclipse, IntelliJ, Visual Studios, you name it. We have a plugin that's going to allow the developer, as they're coding the application, as they're going through and doing their debug or their compilation, they can also go and do more or less a security debug to find these vulnerabilities that may be with respect to the OWASP top 10 or the PCI standards, and able to find these issues and fix these issues. So we have this mantra, find, fix, and fortify, and it's great, and it's a technology thing, but what really makes sense to the bottom line is software security assurance, changing the culture in an organization, teaching the developer, as there are 10 different ways to say fix a cross-site scripting vulnerability. What's the standard for my organization? Parameterize your queries, right? Whatever that particular standard is, we can help to push that standard across your organization. And what we've seen is organizations will have Java and .NET, may have Ruby on Rails or PHP in the background. This is something that Fortify in company with Checkpoint Technologies can help you in managing this endeavor and actually becoming successful in this endeavor. Well, what about from a dynamic perspective? So the strength of dynamic analysis is determining if your application is exploitable. What WebInspect does, it's going to mimic a hacker and challenge the application. And so not only are we going to test through the functionality of the application, but we're going to also test to see what else outside of that purpose or that function can we get the application to do. So WebInspect, again, hacker in a box, able to go and log into the application, test drop-down menus, insert data, and also be able to provide you with a richness of information as to what the vulnerability is, how is it executed if a hacker comes across this vulnerability, what's the impact and the probability of this vulnerability based on my particular business situation, and how to fix it. So we provide you with a richness of data that's going to address specifically your developer audience, your quality assurance group, and your security practitioner. And you will also see a lot of additional data that goes outside of application security, where you may have an IDS or IPS or a firewall. We're going to also provide you with more information to further protect your prized assets. Because again, security should be defense in depth. And with WebInspect, it's completely agnostic, meaning it doesn't matter what the language is the application is written in, or the hosting platform, whether it's Linux, Mac OS, IP version 4, IP version 6. Web services, whether it be RESTful or the web service description language, the SOAP application, it does not matter. We're able to go through and do a thorough diagnostic from the outside in of this application and do that analysis. And we have various components, standalone, remote from an enterprise perspective, or the command line if you want to do a lot of power scanning. We have that. There's a database of information that the DB Labs organization is going to help to input in this particular solution to keep the technology current and up to date. Smart updates is another way, very similar to what the antivirus has done for years, provides you with the latest and greatest signatures, and you can expect to get an update on a daily basis. As the threat spectrum shifts, we are immediately providing those updates to you, oftentimes well in advance to the rest of the world getting the information, because we're tied in with a lot of key alliances within our customer base where they're clearly a part of our success as we are with them. So WebInspect is that dynamic analysis that's going to analyze your code when this application is in a service capacity. It's going to be that ethical hacker that's going to challenge your system to see where those vulnerabilities exist, and determine, what's the effect and what's the level of exposure that your application presents if the hacker decides to compromise your system. But in dealing with building any application, there are 4 things that must be adhered to. It's governance, construction, verification, and deployment. And the governance deals specifically with the metrics. How do you know you're making progress if you're not measuring it? What's the education that's going to go in to, securely coding Java or securely coding .NET or PHP? It's the education aspect that is virtually priceless, and this is something that we can help you with to make sure that the management of this program is done in the best way to industry, and it's going to also set you up for success. Or the construction. How do we build this application successfully? What's the security requirements, the specifications to doing business? What's the threat assessment or the threat model of our particular industry within our particular region? We're able to provide you with how to build the application successfully for your business model. Or the verification. Once the application is built, how do we test it to determine, okay, so the application functions, it performs under load, but is it secure? And oftentimes it's, from use cases. In security, there's a thing we call abuse cases. To be able to verify, if I challenge the application in this way, how will it fare? And we provide you with the richness of solutions to go from end to end, either from the inside out or the outside in, and provide you with a level of collaboration to be able to see more of a hybrid approach across the solution base. And then the deployment. Once the code is developed, how do you put it into practice? The deployment phase is going to also provide you with the solutions. Just for instance, if change control governs any development in an application where you cannot go in and build an actual, fix the security, fix the code, we're able to provide you with a solution that is going to be very, very akin to a server-based WAF, where we can go and provide you protection of that application while it's in runtime. We had a customer who failed a PCI audit. We came through and implemented Fortify real-time, and we were able to safeguard their application, provide level of protection, and help them to successfully pass their audit. So again, governance of managing the program, construction and building the application, and the verification and testing, and then the deployment of putting it into practice. And all of this information integrates smartly into your application lifecycle management solution. Whether it's inline, integrated, or it can be an ad hoc solution, it absolutely integrates in with the overall view of your application lifecycle management. And that's with HP Quality Center or the IBM ClearQuest, where you can take security and roll it right into your program or your project's requirements, specifications. Security can also be an integral part in the success of that program. And as I advance the slides here, so here's just another depiction, more or less across the SDLC. The solution set fits within that particular silo and organization, whether it's in development. We want to, again, allow development to be a part of the solution. Arm them with the actual advanced solutions to analyze their code before they promote it to the next phase, before they roll it into their source safe, or before they push it into to the testing phase, and right within their environment. Or the quality assurance, arming the testers as they're doing their functional testing, as they're doing their performance testing, allow them to also do a security testing of the code. Again, everybody should be a part of this security program. We want to absolutely arm our quality testers. And then in pre-production, where once the code has gone through the checks and balances of development and the checks and balances of QA, security should find very, very minimal issues, if any at all, at this phase. And then you see the improvement of your success to go to market within the solution. And then the ongoing protection, where this security gate is there to basically thwart any issue that may arise from something that theoretical means. So again, the other part would be the production solution, where we're able to manage the solution on a live server, where a server is being transacted each day, and we'll go in and more or less harden that system as it sits and as it provides services. Just for instance, if you're the NASDAQ and you have 5 nines of uptime, maybe 6 nines of uptime, and you can't bring that system down for anything, we have a solution that you can roll into that system without having to do any rebooting or any major configuring. It's going to provide you with a security wrapper around that particular application.
Can I ask you a question on that slide real quick?
Sure.
Can you go into more detail on, if I were to decide I wanted to move forward on this, what's the philosophy around how do I determine where to start? And where do these functions typically fit in your best practices experience? Where do these functions basically fit in a typical business organization?
That's a great question, Jim. What we often do is we sit down with our customers and we have a discussion about the software security assurance. Where are you today? Where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in a year? What have you already done in the vein? What's the goal of the organization? And then from there, we do a diagnostic on more or less a baseline of what you have, and then to help you with the breadcrumbs of your success. And so what we can do then is, at the end, diagnose the issue and then propose the solution that's going to be best for your environment. Whether it's clearly services, maybe there's a deficit in managing the solution that you have, we can provide you with some educational services to where you get the best utilization out of the solution that you've already invested in. Maybe you have a defects tracking system that you want to integrate security in, or your program management. If you have Quality Center or ClearQuest, we can integrate security into that. We can help you, again, to maximize the efficiency of your solution. But it starts with the conversation. Where are you? What are some of the challenges that you face? And where do you want to be in a year?
Sure.
Or 2 years, whichever. But, yeah, it's a conversation. And I think, again, technology doesn't fix technology. We want to understand, at the end of the day, where do you want to be? And then we can prescribe the right solution for that.
An add-on question, if you don't mind?
Sure.
I apologize for interrupting.
No.
What if I don't have what I feel like is skill in-house today?
We oftentimes run into that with customers where, they're a pharmaceutical shop. They are in the process of building cars. They don't have a security staff. It's perfectly fine. Well, with Fortify, you can augment that service to us, and we will do all the heavy lifting for you. We have, again, a zero-footprint solution we call Fortify on Demand that's going to provide you with static analysis or dynamic analysis. And there's other services within this offering that's going to provide you with immediate solutions to help you with your security challenges. And within Fortify on Demand, we can have a turnaround time in 24 hours to do a deep diagnostic of your application and provide you with vetted results within 24 hours. And that's pretty powerful in today's security offerings, and we can do that via static or dynamic. And within that service, you will also be accompanied with a technical account manager to help you to grow within the solution. And what we've seen is Fortify on Demand is that quick gap to that solution. Then you can maybe at some point in time roll into an on-premise solution. If you see the value in the Fortify, you may want to bring it in-house. You can do a hybrid. You can have Fortify on Demand, say, for static analysis, and on-premise for dynamic analysis. You can do a mixture of the two. But
so we really offer what we think is the best of all worlds. We can do it pretty much a la carte based on the requirements of the business.
Yeah, there is no cookie cutter.
That's a great message.
Yeah, there is no cookie cutter solution to security. It's what's going to be best for you.
Got it.
And we will go and have the conversation, and then we will make those recommendations. And I think we've been very successful over time with our customers.
Good. Thanks for letting me interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem. So why Fortify? So the Gartner Magic Quadrant has often been a measure of success or determining, who's the best of the best. And as you see, HP Fortify is a clear visionary and a clear leader in this space. One note I want to make is going into 2013, Gartner has stated that they're going to combine these two quadrants where no longer it'll be a static and a dynamic, it'll just be application security. So it's going to swizzle some of the players in these different spaces, so it's going to be pretty interesting. And again, it's a good measure. If you're not deep into security, if you want some type of benchmark of all the different vendors and all the different solutions, this is a really great place to start. But we feel very, very confident because when you think of static analysis, Fortify is synonymous to static analysis. When you think of dynamic analysis, WebInspect is a premier solution for dynamic analysis. And so we feel very, very confident. There are a lot of solutions that are very similar, but again, I think, and I'm very biased,
Yeah, we would expect that.
but I feel that you won't make a bad decision in recommending or going with Fortify.
Stuff at risk.
Right, absolutely. But again, any information you want, if you're kicking the tires on a solution, you want additional information, we have a lot of analysis information that we can provide, a lot of the market stuff, even the Forrester Wave is another good point of reference. But we feel pretty confident, and we are often in bake-offs and proving the value of the solution. So any questions of that nature, by all means, ask away, and we can provide that data for you. But again, why HP Fortify? We have over 1,000 enterprise customers. We're in 9 of the 10 largest banks, and telcos, insurance firms, aerospace and defense. We have a whole host of customers that you see on the list. There's a lot of customers for the nature of the business that we're in. We can't say anything about it, but we have referenceable customers. If you're wanting to speak with somebody within your industry, I'm pretty well sure that we can provide you with someone to speak with who've been with the
experience in that place.
Absolutely, right. And so again, depending on any market that you can imagine, we can provide you with that information. And then we have one of the most solid security research groups to date. And the one thing I want to highlight is this 500 vulnerabilities category. If you just go online and Google Fortify and then vulnerability category, we publish our entire taxonomy of signatures. How do we analyze for cross-site scripting? How do we analyze for buffer overflow or for SQL injection? All this information is free for you to peruse at your pleasure. And what we won't do, of course, is show you how we clearly find it in the code, but we're going to show you a very large measure of what it is and why it's important. But there are over 500 different categories of checks. But within the technology, say WebInspect, for instance, there are over 5,000 different signatures that we're going to test a vulnerability or a target against. So there's a lot of threats out there that we are aware of. We have intelligent engines. We have ongoing research and development that we provide to our customers. That's a part of the overall support and the maintenance agreement with any level of solution, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud or hybrid. And one other thing I want to mention about the Fortify on Demand, oftentimes people, organizations are fairly leery to upload their code into the Fortify cloud, and that's very understandable. We have what we call Fortify on Demand on-premise. And Fortify on Demand on-premise is going to allow us to more or less create that same environment as we have in our cloud, but on your environment. So all of the code, all of the binaries, all of the analysis is going to be done on customer site as opposed to in this cloud. So again, we have certain customers who are somewhat paranoid to upload their code in the cloud, but we feel very, very confident that we have a very solid program in our SaaS offerings. But again, we also can provide this service on-premise.
The key there is flexibility.
Absolutely. And other than that, we have over 21 programming languages that we support, all the different IDEs and the build servers. We have an extensive support for our solution, and then we have the accolades to prove it, our success. So again, a very, very solid solution. But again, I encourage you to ask questions as it pertains to you, and we can provide those answers in a short order here. But Jim, I'm going to turn this back over to you so we can do the call to action and wrap things up.
Oh, thanks very much. Very good information. So we've pulled together a call to action for those involved in the call today called a proof of value. Please contact us for further information about how to determine the level of engagement around a point of value assessment for your business. And actually contact us as well, because there are some free things available that can give you a taste of the abilities of Fortify and the Fortify solution. So please reach out to us for that interest, and we'll get down to the details with you pretty quickly. Here are the contacts that are primary contacts here with Checkpoint Technologies. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us either by email or giving us a call. We're always happy to talk to you in person, which will ultimately we're going to encourage you to do anyway. We appreciate your time. We're going to be finishing up a little bit early, although not dramatically early, but hopefully we'll give you a few more minutes into your day. But again, thank you so much, and we hope to see you or talk to you again in the very near future. Take care.